my name is Catherine. I'm married to Edward. We've got 4 grown-up children and several grandchildren, and I work as a GP in Kilwinning. I had a very happy childhood, I would say. My parents are Christians. My father died last year, but they told me about Jesus, and I was brought up in a church setting. It was a very formal, traditional Church of England, so there really wasn't much explicit truth there, but we had the prayer book and the Bible, so I was familiar with all that. And then when the church kind of came to life in the mid-70s, when a new minister came who was preaching the Bible, and that was just, a sort of revelation, really. So it was at that point that I realised that this person, Jesus, who I'd known about all my life, really required a response. And so that was when I became a Christian when I was 15. My father died last year, and so he was really elderly and he'd been suffering from dementia. So it was, it was the right thing for him to die. And even though I knew he was a Christian man and that he was safe and that his eternity was assured, it was still hard and going through that period of suffering and seeing my mother and trying to help her. So I think it's only when you're going through something like that that you really realise how strong the presence of God is and how tangible his help is and how much his promises are true. So when you read, I will never leave you or forsake you, you sort of think, oh yeah, but then when you're actually in that situation, you have such a sense of it. And also the Lord's people being, the conduits of that power and that strength and help. Very, very much so. So even though it was a hard time, it was a wonderful time at the same time, because there was such a sense of God's presence. I suppose when I think about the Christmas message, it's a message of great hope at a time of great darkness when it first happened in the Bible, but really just looking around the world as it is now, there is so much difficulty and suffering, and I think it's just the thought of God intervening in the world, because the older I get, the more I realise how difficult life is and how broken the world is and how the things that we do to fix it are so sort of inadequate, really. And you just realise that all of that is not enough. And then when you read the New Testament accounts of the coming of Jesus, it's such a sort of an amazing message of hope that God has reached into our world in the person of this tiny baby, which in itself is an astonishing fact, and that it's out of love and care for his creation that he's done this. So it's the best message in the world, really. It's only the beginning, because you really, as you go on to read the life of Jesus, the truths of the Christmas message are sort of fleshed out in all the events and so on of his life.